from a student that wanted to clarify a little bit about type 1 errors. And the question is here. It says, I thought I had the confidence interval down, but I may not. When we talk about a 95% confidence interval, we are 95% sure that the value falls within the certain range, correct? And that is actually correct. So when we do the distribution function in Excel and we plug in 0.05, and that 0.05 corresponds to a 95% confidence interval, and here is how it comes up. Here's how we get to that. If we have a bell-shaped graph like that, and then we go ahead and we choose the middle 95%. So the region that's shaded here represents 95%. It means the area that's not, which is here and here, together is going to be 5%. So which is going to be that area and that area. Now, if we wanted to go ahead and translate that 5% into a fraction or a decimal, it's definitely going to be equal to 0.05. So that's your level of significance that you've always used, which corresponds to the 95%. Okay, so that's why we use 0.05. Now the next part of the question, the student was wanting to know if using a probability of something less than 5 times in 100 is grounds for accepting the null hypothesis. Is this why at the end of the paragraph it says it is the area of the type 1 error? And I'll just remind you what a type 1 error is all about. A type 1 error is the error of concluding that the null hypothesis is false when in fact it is true. And if we were to go back to this graph here, the distribution allows us to capture 95% of the values if we choose this lower limit to this upper limit. Now, if we recognize that this only captures 95%, it means that there will be 5% of values for which the null hypothesis will be true, but we are not going to accept the null hypothesis. So yes, this 95% does correspond to 5% of the times when you're gonna have an error. So if this is your bell curve and you choose to do a 95% confidence, it means 95% of the times on average you will be correct. However, there is a slim chance that during this period, these values here, which represents 5%, in those cases you should really have accepted the null hypothesis as true, but you are not going to. So that is what leads to a type 1 error, where the null hypothesis is actually true, but we reject it because it falls in the range that's shown here. So it is, the two things are exactly related. And again, in the middle here, the student was relating it to the chi-square test. But at the end of the day, the principle is the same, where yes, the area that's outside of the 95% confidence interval, outside of your upper and lower limits, will be, with this being your lower limit and this being your upper limit, anything outside of those is gonna be treated as a strong case to reject the null, even though It's not impossible that it falls there, it's just very unlikely. Alright, so that's essentially how we translate the 95% confidence interval to the probability of a type 1 error. Alright, this is Rohan. Thank you for watching.